Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me this afternoon is Scott Girard from the Fitchburg Star. He is the number one reporter in my heart. It's one day after Valentine's Day, so I'm got to get my Valentine's Day reference in there. But he is a great reporter and extraordinaire of all news, Fitchburg, Verona, and Oregon, and everywhere else. Probably we just don't know it. Scott Girard, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Now I wish I had come up with a Valentine's themed poem about Fact TV, but we'll have to reserve that for next year.
Yeah, right. Next year would be the time. We have you back up here with us as we are talking about the council recap here from the council meeting this past week. And we're going to kick things off here, Scott, with recapping the housing study that was talked about at the meeting.
Yes, yeah. So the council approved the Fitchburg housing plan, which included some strategies and goals for various housing initiatives. A lot of them are focused on affordability. One of the goals is prioritizing neighborhood health, which includes mixing housing types within a neighborhood, so having options for renters, smaller owner-occupied options, and then larger, more traditional single-family homes, kind of all within the same neighborhood. Having various price points for owner-occupied homes, one thing that's been talked about a lot throughout this process, which included a consultant and a housing study committee, some public outreach, has just been the lack of affordable home ownership options for families in Fitchburg. Home prices keep rising, and it seems that wages, as the consultant told the council the other night, wages have not risen at the same time. So it's been worked on for quite a while. The council approved the plan on a 6-2 vote. A lot of support for kind of creating more equity and more opportunities for people to move into housing. The 2 votes against were from a couple of alders who said that they've heard from constituents that they don't want apartments and they don't want to see that sort of thing. And so they had some concerns about the plan tying the city, I should say, to building that type of housing and building those mixed neighborhoods. And so there was a little discussion about that and just how closely the plan had to be followed once it was approved. But ultimately, the 6 alders who voted in favor said, we're not necessarily going to get to all of these goals. Even the consultant said, I think he said something like, if you achieve half of these, you're going to be doing pretty well. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how the council and mayor after the election kind of dive into putting these into place. Some of the strategies, for example, are using tax incremental financing money toward affordable housing, subsidizing first-time home ownership, creating grants, things like that. So it could be very interesting to see what of these actually are put in place and what's prioritized in this plan.
Absolutely. And we should remind viewers as well that you can go back and watch this council meeting if you want to hear about the study and see the discussions about council as well. That's on the website, fitchburgwi.gov. You also have, there was talk about TID expansion.
Yeah, so tax incremental District 9 was discussed for expansion and approved, and it's really to facilitate 2 projects from some already existing major employers here in the city, Promega and Sub-Zero. I'm sure everyone has heard of both if you live in Fitchburg, and it looks like both are planning to build new facilities over, and this is off the intersection around Lacey and Seminole Highway, kind of the opposite side of Seminole as the North Stoner Prairie development. And so the facility for Sub-Zero is going to be, according to what the consultant said last night, about 350,000 square feet and should create around 100 additional jobs for Sub-Zero. And then Promega, it's going to be a manufacturing facility, not 100 jobs, but it'll create a substantial amount of jobs over there. And so it's another opportunity to add some businesses to the city, and Alder seemed very excited about the opportunity. It passed unanimously. The only concern mentioned by an Alder was Tom Cowder mentioned that it is disturbing more land. It's certainly out in the rural area, and so considering how to use that land and then what effect it'll have on stormwater out in District 4 were some of the concerns. But ultimately, alders were pretty excited about it, and there will be stormwater analysis and things like that as the project continues to come along.
Yeah, two great companies here in Fitchburg, and it's just amazing what they've put in to the city here as far as development goes. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing the groundbreakings on those coming up down the road for sure. Finally, here, Scott, you wanted to talk a little bit about closed session that was held as well.
So they had a pair of closed sessions. One was on acquiring land for the North Fish Hatchery project and just that process of acquiring land for the road project that's coming up in later this year and mostly through next year. They came out of closed session and approved the resolution related to that. The other closed session was related to a lawsuit that was filed in court last week, and that had to do with senior housing project rezoning that was approved last October, I believe, and it was a project that had initially been denied and then came back for reconsideration, and a couple of residents have said that they feel notice requirements were not met, and so the council discussed that lawsuit and its response in closed session, had no follow-up in open session. The other issue that was on the agenda on Tuesday but was tabled until the February 26th meeting was the North Stoner Prairie development. And that's certainly been a hot topic at council meetings over the last year, and so I would expect at the next meeting that'll be a pretty big discussion.
Absolutely. And Scott, for those folks who want to stay up to date with what you guys are working on, where can they go and check out your stories?
Yeah, so connectfitchburg.com, and I just updated that actually with a couple of the stories that I just mentioned earlier today. So got some new content up there, and some of the highlights from our last month, and so always can check it out between papers to stay up to date.
Absolutely. I was just looking. I saw the housing plan right there on the top of the headlines. Way to go. Main page there, buddy. I like it. No, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, as always, Scott. Thank you so very much, and we'll get you back here in a couple weeks for another update.
All right, looking forward to it.
All right, that's Scott Girard, Fitchburg Star. Again, check out their website for more information, and of course, watch for the next paper as well. We'll take a quick break. You are watching Talking Fitchburg.